Ask Reddit by Objective 5550. What's the stupidest thing you ever said that genuinely made you question your intelligence? One time I said I wish I could swim in the air and my friend said, you mean flying? That wasn't swimming, that was drowning, with style. I said it would be nice if we had a mirror app. The camera app should totally be labeled as the mirror app. If there are adult diapers, why aren't there adult strollers? My husband, looking at me like he regrets ever meeting me, you mean wheelchairs? I used to use one of those original large wheeled strollers. I could just squeeze in, put my kid on my lap and use the wheels like a wheelchair. My kid thought it was fun as hell, but strangers looked at me with great concern. Not too much ice please, don't wanna water it down. It was literally just a cup of ice water. This is going into my bank of dad jokes. Look out, wait staff, here I come. I don't know if this counts because praise the Lord I did not say it aloud. The scene. Me, a college senior still living in a dorm doing my weekly snacks and root beer run at the local Walmart. The thought, man, how do people with a whole family grocery shop? Like what do you do if you buy more than you can fit in your arms? Carts. That's what carts are for. There's a story that's how shopping carts were invented. Some store owner noticed people stopped shopping when they had more groceries than they could carry, so he figured if they had something to carry a lot of groceries in, they'd buy more, and they did. My manager's manager asked me to ballpark the percentage of time I was spending on each of my 3 projects. I confidently told him 75% on project A, 25% on project B, and 25% on project C. I heard my cubicle neighbor laughing, didn't immediately click that she was laughing at me. Manager's manager paused a moment, then in a very kind and patient voice, like he was speaking to a Labrador with a learning disability, so, I'd like those numbers to add up to 100%. Can you try again? Then it dawned on me. Edit, typo. He should be impressed you're giving 125%. You hit me in the cervix. I am a man. I meant sternum. Still have to shake that memory out of my head sometimes. Thank you for your cervix. Claimed that the slowest animal is probably an enema. I misspoke and meant to say anemone. I'll never forget the looks of confusion from my co-workers. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I was on a long train trip, gazing out the window, when I said to my friend, I feel like every railroad crossing gate we've passed since I've been looking has been down. What are the odds? I have a PhD, not in trains. I worked on the railroad doing track maintenance. Every now and then upper management would travel by in a pickup modified to run on the rails. Which meant we had to move all tools and get out of the way to allow them to pass. Word would come over the radio. Word came down that the bigwig was irritated that every time he came by, we were just standing around by the track. Oh look, it's a full sun out today. I might start saying this now tbh. I asked what half of 200 was. When I was given looks of you're joking right, I quickly realized what an idiot I really was. I teach physics to pre-meds. You would be horrified at the things they pull out their calculators for. It is utterly astounding and terrifying. Got introduced to identical twins. First thing I said was, wow, how can you guys tell each other apart? A friend once described herself and another friend as such. We're like twins in separate bodies. I made a dentist appointment yesterday. They gave me a date and asked if 10:50 was a good time. I replied with, I'm assuming that is 10:50 AM. A stranger asked my wife, what time is it, and she said right now. She made me tell you this. Years ago a coworker and I were discussing how many Japanese people apparently have a KFC dinner for Christmas. We then wondered what do they do for Thanksgiving and began attempting to Google it. Spent quite a few minutes trying to search it up, remarking to each other in confusion that we couldn't find anything at all. I then realized how incredibly stupid we were. I'm not originally from the US, and every year someone feels sorry for me for not being able to spend Thanksgiving with my family. When I explain that my country doesn't have that holiday, they feel even worse for me that I grew up without Thanksgiving. In a physics class back in high school, I am gonna need a longer yardstick. Why are yardsticks so rare? They don't make them any longer. Years ago I was watching a rugby game with the 4 or 5 others in my flat over a few quiet beers. The game was being commentated by a sort of famous ex-rugby player, who was known for weird verbal gaffes, accidental, double entendres and misspeaking. Some amusing examples I found: your first instinct when you see a man on the ground is to go down on him, and yell is the 21-year-old, who turned 22 a few weeks ago, and it's all tied up at 14-13. Anyway, after having a laugh or two at his expense already, he said something along the lines of "this game is being played at a frenetic pace," which I and I alone laughed heartily at. Frenetic, I said loudly, in case the others hadn't quite twigged. Did he mean frantic? Or energetic? God pick one man. Hahaha, no one really said anything, and I got the funny feeling I just made a twat of myself. Fortunately. This one I feel in my soul. I still think about one time when I said ordain instead of ornate. I genuinely got Freddie Mercury and Eddie Murphy mixed up during a conversation. Eddie Murphy? That's the singer for Queen, right? When Elle was little, Elle did the same thing with John Lennon and Lenin, Russian leader. When Elle heard that Russia supposedly had Lenin's body on display, I'd think, wow, Russians must really love the Beatles. Me, hi, how are you? Them, good, how are you? Me, good, how are you? I've done this many times. My girlfriend asked me to put her clothes in the dryer and I got irritated and said, well, where are they? That took me a sec to get to and I feel stupid. Me to the lady that I thought looks like me, as I was in passing, oh hey. It looks like we could be twins. My reflection. It had been a long shift. Oh no, honey. This one still haunts me. I once was having surgery and in walks the anesthesiologist to ask me questions and see if I had any for him. I said, just 2. Do people dream? And he responds, not usually. What's your other question? And I said, is it normal to be afraid I won't wake up? And he goes, I promise you will. Me, well, I bet I won't. I bet I won't. I bet the anesthesiologist I was going to die. Like a fucking idiot. You were obviously nervous. And I'm glad you were wrong. When I was first dating my husband, he took me to a football match and said it's played in quarters. I asked him, so how many quarters are there? In 7th grade, they gave us written tests in gym class. During the basketball unit, we were asked, how many quarters are in a basketball game? I wrote, there are 4 quarters in anything made up of quarters. It was marked wrong with a note, the attitude isn't necessary. My boss asked me to print an address label for some documentation they had to mail out. My printer was out of ink, so I told her I was unable to print said label, mail the document out in time. She then explained that I could just write it by hand. SMRT. I feel this one. What is the name of the dog from Shooby-Doo? I've got something similar. Me to my coworker with long hair, you look like that chick from Rapunzel. I was at a job interview for a baking job. The interviewer asked me if I know how to bake. I told her no, but I can read. Meaning I can follow the directions of a recipe. I thought you said banking job and couldn't figure out why they would ask if you could bake.